Hey there, guys. This is Slamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke. It's been a while, but I'm going to review the latest Berserk anime, 2016, or whatever you want to call it. I don't think there's really any official title for it besides just Berserk, but yeah, I watched it as it was coming out on Crunchyroll, so it's been like several months. But as I said in the NX video from this past weekend. Things got busy, but I'm still alive, and I'm here to talk about the new Berserk anime and give my thoughts on it, give a little review on it. So, overall, I'll just go ahead and say I actually did like it. This show in particular has had a bit of controversy, I guess, with it because of the art direction. How it's primarily a CG animated show. Which honestly, like, I'll go ahead and say it could have been a lot worse. I actually didn't mind it nearly as much as I thought it would. Like, going into it, I was kind of expecting it to be a lot worse, but it actually ended up being better. It was basically kind of like the reverse of the movies, where in the movies they were mostly a traditional 2D drawn. I don't know if I want to say hand drawn because I imagine it was probably drawn on like computer or something, but you know what I mean, like a 2D traditionally animated art, and sometimes they would have the CG, usually for like the fight scenes and like the big battles, which in my opinion at that point it made sense. But in the movies, particularly I think the first one and maybe the second one as well, there was a lot of CG and just regular scenes as well. Whereas in this show, it's primarily CG. There are some moments where they show a traditional 2D animation. It's kind of like another thing you could maybe compare it to is the first part of Kai, Dragon Ball Z Kai. Basically, Saiyan Saga up through Cell before the Buu Saga and whatnot, where it's mostly uh, the same footage that we all grew up with, like the old footage, but just like all cleaned up and altered a little bit to work better in widescreen. But occasionally and randomly, they would have the same scene, but it would be like reanimated. Like they would have the animation cells, but it would be reanimated, so it would look new, but it would also kind of look like it was traced over. And I'm only saying that because like the traditional 2D animated cutscenes in this show are shown pretty randomly. Like, in the very first episode when Guts is making his dinner for the night, he caught and killed a rabbit, and he has like some potatoes, and he has like alcohol and whatnot, and like he's making it, and like after he's done and up through this scene, it's been CG, but then for like the frame of him eating, it just shows like regular animation, like him like eating his food. And in that same episode, when he says his name, when he's on the caravan, it goes to 2D animation. In the final episode, I believe, episode 12, though I'll get to whether or not this series is actually final later on. The blonde chick, I can't remember her name, but she's one of Luca's little sisters, quote unquote, and she's hiding in the barrel. It's CG animation throughout that scene, but then randomly when it shows like the blonde chick and she's like saying stuff, it shows like 2D animation just kind of randomly. So it's kind of like Kai from that standpoint. That's what I mean. How like the new animated scenes are just kind of randomly done and dispersed out within the already established in Dragon Ball Z Kai's case, the old footage that's been polished up. In Berserk's case, the CG animation. So, just to kind of get that out of the way, honestly, I didn't really mind it that much. I felt like it blended better with the 2D animation, because they do some shading stuff. You can still tell it's CG. It's not like one of those things where it's like it looks like 2D animation, but it's CG, like it's a mind trick thing. It looks like CG, animation, but like the like anime. So it's not like the highest quality thing. Like I've heard some people compare it to like a PS2 game, but it's like, this is like anime. It's not gonna look like Final Fantasy or whatever. They're not going for that. You're not gonna see your just got out of the shower shing hairstyles or anything. Uh, Not to mention they're using an anime art style. They're not like trying to make it like hyper realistic or anything. So from a style standpoint, like art style, trying to capture Kintaro Miura's art style, it does match it. Um, the characters look like the way they should, in my opinion. And whenever there's a CG animation, like it carries over pretty well. Um, I should note that the opening to this show is almost entirely in traditional 2D animation, with the exception of like a few scenes of Guts doing his sword and smirking, grabbing his sword, being all like, "I'm gonna go crazy," and stuff like that, which can be a little misleading. The intro itself, I actually kind of liked watching. When I first heard the theme song in the trailers, I think it's called like Inferno by 9mm Paralimbabim Bullet or something. It's some like weird name. It was actually a pretty good song. Apparently, there's only the short version available. There's no like long version. I noticed, which I find kind of weird. But it was a pretty good song, and watching the intro, it made me kind of feel nostalgic, like kind of like I had come back to an old friend. I imagine that's how some people felt when they heard the announcement for Shenmue 3. Heck, I've been getting that feeling with Dragon Ball Super and feeling nostalgic over Dragon Ball lately. But yeah, that's sort of the feeling I kind of got from the opening, which was kind of interesting because I feel like Berserk is probably one of my favorite series, but I didn't think I would have the kind of reaction that I did when I watched the opening. It wasn't sort of like it wasn't very like it was more internal is what I'm getting at. Though continuing with the anime art, which I feel like is part of the reason why they went with the CG animation. I know they said like based on what they said, it seemed like a stylistic choice, but personally, I think it's true, but also I think that part of the reason why was also because the 2D art, it's not perfect. Some of it does look really good, like in the opening, I think it looks pretty good. There's a flashback sequence between Guts and Griffith that's done entirely in the 2D animation that looks really good. There's the scene where Guts grabs a Serpico's rapier with his hand, and that's a panel taken out from the manga. Like that's straight up from the manga. It looked really nice as well. I actually had that screen capped, and it's in the show notes on the podcast when I talked about it. Like back when it was a little more relevant. But it's not the best looking animation, and I feel like that's part of the reason maybe why they went with the CG animation, besides maybe the stylistic reasons that they said. We'll have to see kind of how things go, because I'll go ahead and say it now. They actually are planning another season, I think in like spring or the winter time or something. Probably winter, because it was a summer show, and it started pretty early in the summer as well. So it ran its course, and during the fall it had its break, and so I think they're gonna do another one, probably another 12 episodes, depending. I imagine when it goes on Crunchyroll, they'll probably say like, "Oh, it's episode 13," and that's also how I have it written on my anime list that I have in like WordPad for shows that I keep up with pretty regularly. But yeah, so overall, the 2D art, while nice in some areas, I feel like isn't perfect looking. It does look a little lower quality, a little bit. It still looks pretty good, especially in like that one screenshot of Guts catching Serpico's sword, as well as the flashback between Guts and Griffith. I don't remember what episode that was in. It was used in a music video of the ending theme song, which for a couple of episodes they actually play an English version of it. It's actually a really pretty song, and when I watched the music video that Crunchyroll did, they had the lyrics with it, and I had to look up because they reference like that Warrior Valhalla thing. I think it's called Aryan Haired or something. And once I realized it and kind of made connections on what exactly was going on with the song and sort of like the meaning behind it within the context of the show, it actually kind of got really sad and it got like really sombering and kind of depressed me a little bit. Like, oh yeah, all of Guts's friends are dead because they were killed by Griffith. It also made me think about Future Trunks and his timeline, how he has no friends, but that's a subject for later, pretty soon later, but that is a subject for later. So that was a really nice song, and it was pretty nice to kind of wind down from all the action. Though I feel like you can't talk about the vocal songs in this show without talking about Hayo by veteran Berserk soundsmith. I guess I'll call him Susumu Hirasawa. That's sort of like Hayo is sort of like the equivalent of Forces, which actually on his album he has a 2016 version of Forces, which sounds pretty awesome. But Hayo, it has sort of like this, we're gonna get through this kind of sound to it in a way. Or it kind of pumped me up, and they play it during the, they played it a little bit, in like the last couple episodes, and I think in some random moments with Guts, but it also plays, for the episode preview, so it basically is like Forces, and on the last episode, they play, the song Ash Crow, which is also by Susumu Hirasawa. I feel like Hayo is sort of like, it's kind of like to me that's almost like also the equivalent to maybe Guts' theme, because it plays during the scene where like Guts is all like, we're gonna live, and like he's like, take this wood thing and we're gonna wood ourselves to victory or something, sort of like his sense of like resolve and like determination and his instinct to survive. That was kind of cool. And so I kind of see it as sort of like an equivalent to Guts' theme. Unfortunately, there's no like really pretty track in this show. The actual soundtrack is done by Shiro Sawiga, I think his name is. It's the Bleach guy, the guy who did the guy who actually did the movies as well, but also who did Bleach's music. I feel like the tone of the show is a bit different than the first anime, and you're going to hear me compare this to the first anime more than the movies, because I feel like it actually has more in common with the show from like 1997 or whenever it came out than it does with the movies, even though the voice actors who are returning as like Guts and whatnot, they're from the movie. So like you got your Takahiro Sakurai's Griffith, your Hiroaki Iwanaga, I believe his name is, or Iwagana or something. Your Yuki Kaji's as your Judo, who he does appear a little bit, I believe, because I remember I think I remember seeing Judo in the show. Casca also has a little bit of some voice dialogue, and I say that with it's a lot of like moans and groans because and like quote unquote baby noises because of like what happened to Casca. Her brain and her mind is like destroyed because Griffith violated her in every way. Which the show opens in a similar way to the first show. It even opens in like a really similar location with like the bar and whatnot, where Gus comes in and is all like, "Don't fuck with me." Though there's not too many like recaps of what had happened previously in the story up to this point, so newcomers might be a bit confused as to as to what Guts' story is. Um, but the entire intro is kind of like a giant recap, and I feel like that's sort of its purpose, to serve as a recap for those who haven't seen the story before. That may have also been why I felt nostalgic the first time I saw it. I liked it so much I actually went back and watched the opening like on YouTube later on. I hadn't seen like a good quality upload at the time. I imagine you could probably find one now, but I could also just watch the show again if I really wanted to. But it opens in the bar with the guys throwing the knives at Puck, so it's closer to the manga in that sense, that it's not like some random like girl being bothered. And uh, Isidro, the little kid, who in Crunchyroll subs they call him Isidoro, so um, that's a thing. I had been reading the manga at this point, so I know him by his Dark Horse translation, which is Isidro. Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes with the dub, because it is getting dubbed, and I'm pretty sure Funimation is actually doing the dub, which I really hope they get the English voice actors back, because those actors made for a lot of people like myself make the show. It'd be kind of like if they were to replace everyone in Dragon Ball or Yu Yu Hakusho or something, which I know for Yu Yu Hakusho they did for one of the movies, but you know. And I don't mean like replacing the voice actors in the middle of the show like in Dragon Ball Z. I mean like they have one cast for one thing, and then when they announce a movie or something, they replace the cast for that specific feature or like a game or whatever. Kind of like in English what they did with you, really kind of what they did with Berserk in Japan, because the TV voice actors and the movie voice actors are actually different. As far as I know, there's no like reoccurring person, though I do believe that the narrator for the anime, who I think is Unsho Ishizuka, who you'll recognize as Eugene from Tales of Rebirth, as well as currently Hercule / Mr. Satan in Dragon Ball. I believe he did the narration for the TV anime, and he's also doing it for the new 2016 anime. So, but anyway, yeah, Isidro, he shows up, which I actually didn't like, because from what I remember, he didn't show up in that bar in the manga when he first appeared. I think he was introduced in a different way in the manga, is basically what I'm saying, which I didn't really like that they showed him here. He's voiced by Hiro Shimono, which I don't know how I entirely feel about that. I might have a little bit of a Noragami bad taste in my mouth, because Hiro Shimono played a character in that show that I did not like, but he fits the character well. Isidro is a bit, the voice fits basically, and the only other voiced version of this character was in the PS2 game, and I imagine that was from what I remember, they sounded pretty similar anyway. So they matched, and I don't think they were trying to match, but you know, I'm basically in a roundabout way trying to say that the voice fits, even though I don't really like it. And it kind of grew on me anyway, though, because he's pretty funny, and a lot of times for this 2D animation, they would do like a lot of his gags, because he's a bit of a joke character. He and Puck are kind of joke characters in a way, or they're used as such, which was pretty nice, especially considering we had Mr. Serious Guts and, you know, religiously angst Farnese, or Farnese as she is, as they said in the show. So I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. I've always said Farnese when reading the manga. I don't know if I guess it's maybe Farnese, I don't know. Again, we'll have to see how they do it in the dub, which she's also, like, her, Isidro, I believe Shirk, or Shirke, or however you say her name, the witch chick, Puck, Isidro, I think I already said Serpico, I can't remember, but basically all of, like, Guts' new companions, I believe, have had English voices before. Serpico was actually voiced by Hubert in the PS2 game. The guy who voices him in this adaptation, this show, he sounded pretty good. All the other voice actors I thought sounded pretty good. And I really liked Azan as well. He did a good job. And I don't remember what happens to Azan in the manga. I think he's still alive, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, um, due to what happens in the with Farnese and Serpico, I don't remember seeing him later on. Um, it's been kind of a while since I've read the manga. I have read a little bit more, so I am a little ahead. But I imagine by the time the next season starts up, I might catch up with myself. So it starts off with that, and there's no like I said, there's no like recap, and they jump straight to like the thing that starts the Holy Chain Knights catching up to Guts and kidnapping him. So they start right there. So to me, it almost seemed like this was meant to be an extension of the anime. Like it was almost meant to be like an episode 27 or whatever episode the first anime left off at. You could also maybe see it as like an extension of the movies. The movies did have a different opening than the anime and the manga, whereas they started like in the middle of like the Black Swordsman arc, then recapped. Whereas the movies they started off at like the Golden Age arc, uh, uh, around the Bazuso fight. Um, and so because of that, I felt like that first episode, I felt like this was meant to. It was either meant for people who had already seen and had read Berserk, but also for people who had maybe seen the anime as well, like the first anime. Like it was meant to be an extension of that. That's just my opinion, and I don't have like any source or anything like that. But in terms of the story, it's basically the Black Swordsman arc, and they fight up to like the quote unquote second eclipse, or what I like to call the pagan arc, with like the witches and like the or not witches, yeah, they're kind of pagans, like the yeah, like the Holy Chain Knights going around executing and burning people for doing bad pagan witchcraft things. And that's where we also meet Luca, who's voiced by Miyuki Sawashiro, and she did a good job there as well. She's actually a very skilled voice actress. I didn't recognize it at first, even though I feel like I should probably recognize her voice, since she's Mila in Tales of Exilia. But you know, I can almost never tell when it's her. Um, and Father Mosgus, or however you say his name, he is voiced by Rikia Koyama, who you'll probably recognize as Kiritsugu in Fate Zero, as well as Duke in Tales of Vesperia, which is kind of funny because like his performance sounded like he was trying to be Norio Wakamoto. He even did like the R flip and like the rolls and the thing that Norio Wakamoto does sometimes. He did a pretty good job though of voicing the character, and I was really looking forward to seeing his face, because his face is very sort of solid looking, but then when he gets like really 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 mad, like you see all like his face like just really contorts, um which is kind of funny to look at, and also just kind of surprising as well. um but yeah, it's basically the early Black Swordsman arc. I guess you could really call the entire thing the Black Swordsman arc, and I'm pretty sure it's actually referred to as such. um People kept saying that the Lost Children arc wasn't in this. I'd have to fact check that because I don't remember where specifically that arc took place in. If it's what I think it is, if it's about like the where Guts goes around killing some of the apostles, which although logically that would take place before like the Holy Chain Knight pagan thing, um, then that would be a bit of a shame, because I actually really like the one where he fought the bug girl. Um, Again, I'd have to like go back and look, because I don't remember where that arc took place in. I'm inclined to believe all the people who are saying that they took that arc out, because of just the logical placement of where it would be. Um, though I could see why maybe they would want to take it out. Maybe they felt like it wasn't entirely necessary to tell that part of the story, which maybe. I feel like I could vouch for the inclusion of that arc because it shows that because part of Guts's growth, from what I understood based on reading not only the manga but also reading like synopsises of like certain parts, it seems like Guts is kind of gonna go away from the whole revenge thing, and I think it's gonna happen after he gets the Berserk armor, which I'm seeing a little bit of it because I'm at the part where right after he Shurkei joins the group permanently, and he is recovering from the first time he uses the Berserk armor, and he said like, "Oh, this was the first time I had gotten a good night's rest," and he just seems really tranquil. Um, so I feel like I mean, you could also maybe make the argument that, like, oh well, he was just in like a lot of pain, so he's just mellowed from that. Um, I think it also ages him as well. Like that's what I've heard as well. I might be that might be a misunderstanding or something. But so that's why I feel like seeing the Lost Children arc and seeing Guts kill the apostles, um, like one by one. He doesn't kill all of them, obviously, but he does kill a fair amount of them, and a lot of them are like lesser ones. Like he doesn't kill like any of the God Hand, I don't think. Or if he does, I don't remember. I think the only one he might have killed was maybe Slan. Um, I think. I think. Um, but so yeah, that's the. I think if it actually isn't coming in later, and they actually did skip it, I could see why they wouldn't want to, because I could see where they might think, oh well, it's a little pointless because all it is just like enemy after enemy after enemy after enemy. It's almost kind of like filler. But I could also see why it would be important to include that arc, um, for Guts' development and growth as a character. Um, but I guess mainly his growth, due to the way I see how the word character development should be defined, which I've talked about before on the podcast. Um, so yeah, and then they go into the pagan stuff, which, as far as overall, I'd say the adaptation was pretty well. As far as censored, I didn't notice hardly any censored stuff. It's mainly that they don't show like you're not going to see you're not going to see like too much gross stuff. Because if you look at the manga, like there's just like a bunch of like limbs and like people getting chopped up and like eaten, like destroyed, and eyes popping out. Like it's not the most graphic thing in the world. It is incredibly graphic, but it's like it's a little exaggerated a little bit, I think. It is still very graphic, do not get me wrong. Because I know there are going to be some people out there who can be like, oh, have you read it? And it's like, yes, I have. But you got to understand that, maybe it's just because I'm desensitized to it. Although the pagan arc was actually kind of tough for me to get through when I was reading the manga. Um, Whereas here, I felt like I was able to get through it a lot better. But yeah, like I basically I didn't felt like it was censored. I felt like they were pretty on point. Uh, the only thing I could maybe think of being censored is that they didn't show like too many of like the destroyed bodies and like torn up flesh and whatnot. Um, they it was mainly they mainly kind of focused more on the content, which was good for them. They did show some like torn up bodies, I'm pretty sure. I think this also aired on TV though, which may have been why they didn't show too much. But I don't think it was necessarily censored personally. Um, but yeah, it was pretty good, and of course it ends with like um Guts and his supposed gang. He's regained Casca, and Isidro, Puck, and they're going off. Or Puck and Guts and Casca are going off. Isidro decides to follow them. Farnese and Serpico decide to follow him because Farnese is sort of obsessed with him now. Uh, it's pretty on point what they show. I don't remember seeing any like girl nipples or anything on their boobies, but they do show the scene where Farnese has removed her shirt and like starts whipping herself in front of like this holy idol symbol thing, whipping herself back and forth on the back. I think the proper term is prostrating. you're prostrating yourself, I believe. I think that's the right word. I'm not entirely sure. And there's also the scene where like she gets groped by like the horse demon, and then the scene after that where Guts wakes up and she's naked and she chokes him with like a thread thing and sits on his sword. I mean his actual sword, the dragon sailor, not his penis. So they kept that. So fuck you who say the show is censored now. I was actually kind of looking for that scene, not for any weird way, but that was one of my indicators that uh the show wasn't as censored as people think. It is a pretty important scene, so that might have been why they kept it. Of course, with this series, like, there's a lot of stuff that's there for a reason, so they kind of have to show it, even if it is a bit grotesque. I'm actually kind of surprised that Tumblr and the social justice warriors didn't like destroy this series and be like, well, what the fuck? I saw someone complaining that Casca wasn't dark enough because, people don't understand lighting, but and it was a Kotaku article, and they showed the clip they showed of the first anime was when they were in a dark place. So obviously Casca's gonna look darker than she actually is. Most people in a dark place will look darker than they actually are. So that's my rant for the evening. But yeah, I felt like it was a pretty good show. I felt like the acting was good. I felt like it was all really good. Even the sound effects were kind of cool, like the sound of the Dragon Slayer hitting things. It had sort of like this gong sound to it. I really liked it. Only real complaints is um sort of the the CG. Don't get me wrong when I say that it could have been a lot worse and that I thought it was okay. I still am not entirely pleased with it. I would have preferred if it was traditional 2D animation. And I suspect that the next season with Shirke and like the Berserk armor and like the trolls and whatnot, I suspect that might be 2D animated because they didn't show any CG stuff. In fact, that entire any scenes with Shirk and her caretaker in like the treehouse or whatever, those were pretty those were in 2D animation. I don't know if it was just because, and for all I know, that could be wrong. The entire thing could be still CG with some 2D animation, which that's fine. I'm not gonna complain that much because I would read the manga anyway, so I don't necessarily need an anime adaptation, but it would just be nice. It's just like the extra thing. So yeah, that's what I think. Overall, I liked it. The voice acting was good. Again, CG animation not nearly as bad as people think. I also feel like the show wasn't nearly as censored. It may just be because I was more focused on like, are they going to get the story right? Which someone in the comments, it was actually kind of funny. Someone said like, wow, it really shows that Berserk, that like the story of Berserk shines through even with like poor animation budget. And I thought that was kind of funny because it is like this story is very very interesting. Like I said, it's probably like my third favorite like anime franchise. Maybe even second, give or take what's in place. If you count one of the Tales anime, Dragon Ball is obviously number one. But yeah, I really like Berserk, and I kept seeing people like, "Hey, I want to get into manga," and like other videos that weren't even related to Berserk. People kept saying like, "Hey, I want to get into manga. What should I read?" Everyone kept saying Berserk, Berserk, Berserk. Read Berserk. I'm like, yeah, it's fucking good. I need to catch up on the manga. I'm a bit behind. The volumes are expensive. I think a lot of them are out of print now. But yeah, overall, I actually enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the next season whenever that starts. And of course, the new Berserk game, Berserk Muso, or sorry, it's actually called Berserk and the Band of the Hawk. That's the English name. It's not Berserk Muso anymore, at least in North America, but it's going to be coming out pretty soon, so I think in February. Which will give me time to play Berseria. And of course, by then, I imagine the anime might actually be starting, but that's the second season, I mean. I guess technically third, depending on how you look at it, but I've ranted and rambled enough. Overall, I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was nice seeing Berserk again. You know, if they really did skip out on the Lost Children arc, if it was meant to be before the pagan thingy, that's a bit unfortunate. That'd be cool if they did like an OVA where they showed that and that was all 2D animated. That'd be cool if they did that. That'd be one way to compromise. If it was an OVA, they could go the Negima route uh, where they don't, where it doesn't completely follow the main story, but then there are OVAs that fill in the blanks, or quote unquote, or not even quote unquote, because like the Negima OVAs followed the actual manga story. From what I know, I haven't actually seen them, but I did read all of that, and Berserk's gonna be going for a while, it would seem. But yeah, that's all I have to say on this bad boy. Overall, I liked it. If you want to give it a shot, go ahead. It should be coming out in English pretty soon. I think by Funimation. I think because I remember like back when Crunchyroll announced that they were gonna dub anime and do DVDs. Berserk was already on that list, so they were already planning it. And I suspect that part of that plan for English dub production and DVD production was due to their partnership with Funimation. Because I had read that they had actually planned it pretty early too, so yeah. This video was a lot longer than I thought it would be, but yeah, that's what I thought about the Berserk anime, the new one. I enjoyed it, and if you want to give it a shot, feel free. But yeah, this is Flames Ron, aka YouTube Sasuke, signing out. See you later.